the game. You don't play to just play. Come after me. I'm a man. I'm for you. Can't wait. Let's go.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Thank you for making us a part of your morning, however it is that you are doing it this morning, whether you are watching us live on Facebook and YouTube, or whether you're watching us live on Roku TV over at Northeast Streaming Sports. We appreciate you making us part of your morning routine. As always, I am Chris, and that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
Doing great on a Friday eve. Appreciate everybody for listening in, everybody that's in the chat, everybody that will listen to us later. We appreciate you.
Mo, let's start with this morning. First of all, we have Thursday night football tonight, so I'm glad that we have football, Mo. I'm not making any promises tonight, though. 1-7 versus 2-7, but it could be the game of the year. You never know. The way this season's going.
It might be a nail biter.
But let's open up. Let's start with this. So we have JG on here in a little bit, which is very exciting. But we have some quarterback news that we're going to start with today. And Mo, the Arizona Cardinals rumors have come out. People within the organization have come out, and they've leaked the news that Arizona is not ruling out Kyler as a QB1 option for the 2024 season. And Mo, when I saw that, I said to myself, it's not news that he's potentially in their plans for 2024, but it is news that they're openly saying that, because shouldn't he potentially be in your plans for 2024? Obviously you need to figure out what he looks like this season, and you also need to figure out where you finish in the draft order. Because if you have a first, second, or third round draft pick, this is a completely different conversation. But Mo, I'm not taken aback so much by the fact that he could be in their plans for 2024. I'm more taken aback that they're talking about how he could be in their plans for 2024. That's not necessarily something you want to be throwing out there before the young man tries to jumpstart his NFL career again over the second half of the season.
It's not a ringing endorsement. It's not the kind of welcome back that I'm sure Kyler Murray would want. When you say the things that they've said, the implication really is like, well, we're not really sure. You can say that, but what you're really saying is we got to see what he is, which I'm sure that's fair. You want to see if Kyler Murray athletically can be the quarterback that he was, because a big part of who he is his mobility. And if he's anything less than that, then he's a lesser quarterback. Let's understand, because of his size, he's not a pocket passer. He can't just sit back there and dissect defenses. That's not his strength. I would say this: if I'm him and his agent, I'd be a little confused about the message that was sent when you say it like that.
And Mo, let's not forget, when the Arizona Cardinals drafted Kyler Murray, they had a franchise quarterback in-house that they had just drafted in the first round the year before. They didn't like what they saw. They moved on. They took Kyler. Now people are saying, well, they paid Kyler Murray, so they're kind of got to sleep in the bed they made. I don't think so, Mo. I think if they end up with a top 3 draft pick and they like a quarterback on the board more than they like Kyler Murray, I think they're going to pull the trigger, and they'll figure out the Kyler Murray contract situation later on. I don't think they're going to let the fact that they paid this guy trap them into keeping him if they don't actually want Kyler as their QB1.
I agree 100%. If they come up with one of those top 3 picks, they're going to get a quarterback. I believe that. No matter what they say, they're going to draft a quarterback. And I do think that it wouldn't shock me if Kyler Murray wasn't an Arizona Cardinal at some point next season. I know that they're trying to give him that confidence. They're doing what the Packers did, right? They're telling Jordan Love, you're our guy. They gave him some money. You're QB1. Relax. We're all behind you. And they've seen what they've seen, and now the Packers are thinking like, so we need to draft another quarterback. And even though Kyler Murray has had some success, I think that when you look at his overall impact in his career in Arizona, I wouldn't say that he's a top-tier quarterback. I would say that he's an entertaining quarterback and he can be exciting, but I wouldn't have him as one of the top 5, even top 10 quarterbacks in football.
Mo, the NFL is an interesting landscape because it wasn't that many years ago, I would say 3 or 4, where once you pay the quarterback the big contract, that's your guy. I mean, there is really no precedent in the NFL right now of paying the big money to a quarterback, injuries aside, to where he isn't your guy for at least the next 2 or 3 years. But now you're looking at situations with the New York Giants with Daniel Jones. They gave him the bag. We don't know if he's going to be their quarterback next season, despite the fact that he was paid big money. You're looking at the Kyler Murray situation. And I know that both of these guys, Kyler had a season-ending injury last year. Jones had him this year. But let's not fool ourselves. If the Cardinals move on from Kyler and the Giants move on from Daniel Jones, although they might say injury was part of it, injury concerns were a part of it, let's not fool ourselves. We know that's not the reason. The reason is they weren't happy with the on-field product. And Mo, that takes us into a whole uncharted territory in the NFL, where if the big quarterback contract isn't actually security for the quarterback themselves, that's territory we haven't seen before.
This is brand new. And you left out another situation, and I think we both think it's possible. Russell Wilson. Massive contract. But you can't tell me that Sean Payton is like, I want to get my own guy in here. I want to get my own guy here. Now, that contract is a massive contract, but like you said, the only security is they have financial security. But in terms of their careers or where they're going to be, I have no idea, because these are different times. When you invest that kind of money in a quarterback, like you said, Chris, that's your guy for the next 3 or 4 years at a minimum. I'm looking at Daniel Jones' situation, and it might be even more dire because the injury is going to keep him out of most of next season. So is he going to even suit up ever again for the New York Giants? That's a real possibility. So the NFL is going through a new flux. We're going to pay guys. We think they're our guys, but if we go through a couple of seasons or 3 and go, no, teams are eating the money. They're eating the money if they think that they can move on and get their franchise quarterback.
Speaking of the New York Giants, Tommy DeVito, that's his name. Tommy DeVito is starting this week.
Is that the guy that doesn't throw the football?
That is the guy that doesn't throw the football. And if you are the Dallas Cowboys, wow, what a way to bounce back from a loss to the Philadelphia Eagles than getting to play against Tommy DeVito, the man who is afraid to throw the football. Mo, they might lose this game by 30. I don't know what they're gonna scheme for DeVito baby back there, but if I'm the Dallas Cowboys defense, it's about to be Christmas morning. What this kid can't do anything against the Dallas defense. Come on now.
He shouldn't, but you know what? I hope Tommy DeVito throws for like 350.
I checked
it's not gonna happen, but
I checked the line yesterday, I think, and it was like 14.5 or some ridiculous number like that. So Vegas is also not very impressed with Tommy DeVito. Although, what a great name. What a great name to say.
It sounds like he should be in Hollywood, right? DeVito.
It does.
Maybe he's related to the guy.
It's not going to be a Hollywood story on Sunday, though, Mo. I'm just saying.
I think it might be the beginning of the end for Tommy DeVito.
The other quarterback news that we had coming into the morning is that Justin Fields is doubtful for the game tonight. Unfortunately, if you are a Chicago Bears fan or if you are a Justin Fields fan, I'm sure there are some out there. He is a top 5 all-time running quarterback. Just ask him. He will tell you that himself. But it does not look like he is going to be playing tonight, which it just makes the game all that better, doesn't it, Mo?
So now it's going to be a shootout for sure, right? I know somewhere Al Michaels is like, I got to get something changed in my contract because these Thursday night games are killing Al.
He is so sad on the broadcast on Thursday nights, and I get it. It's tough because some of the matchups, and this wasn't one of them. I'm not trying to say that, but some of the matchups on paper coming into the season for Thursday nights didn't look half bad, and they just ended up being awful. I don't know what we are doing with the Panthers-Bears matchup. I don't know who thought that was going to be must-see TV because I don't think in any realm of possibility it was going to. But it is the number 1 draft pick, So, that's something, right, Mo?
It's something for Panthers fans. You know what that line is, so you're telling me there's a chance, right? He may turn around and have a massive game, turn his season around. I'm still not out on the kid. I think that he struggled, but I think it's too early in his career to write him off.
Key is in the chat. Key, who isn't coming back? Who's not retiring? I don't know who we're talking about right now. Give me that name so I can talk about that a little more. But right now, we're going to have JG coming on the show. We got some baseball news. Baseball news popping up left and right. It's the off season around Major League Baseball, so some things are happening. JG, how are you this morning, sir?
Hey, doing good. How are you guys doing?
Morning, JG.
Morning.
Oh, Al Michaels is not. I don't think Al Michaels should retire. I think he's just got to get himself off Thursday Night Football.
Right. Come on.
Put a little bit of life back in the man's eyes. Jeez.
That's almost like retirement.
Right. I mean, they've really sent him off to pasture on Thursday Night Football, the poor guy. JG, always a pleasure to have you on here this morning. Let's start with Scott Boras. This is his favorite time of the year. No agent gets the shine like Scott Boras gets the shine during the Major League Baseball offseason, and he's already coming out and talking. He's talking yesterday about Juan Soto. He's saying Juan Soto is not going nowhere. He is in the future plans of the Padres. It's all talk. He is a Padre. Don't worry about it. JG, do you buy what Boras says about Soto?
It almost feels like that's what kicks off free agency is we get the Scott Boras interview and quotes. That's the beginning of the offseason for MLB. I do. I kind of feel like he's not going to get traded. I think at least in the offseason, could that be something that happens in the trade deadline during the season 2024? Yeah, I could see that more likely. I think there's going to be some teams that are going to make phone calls. I think there's going to be some teams that have that interest. But for the Padres, they got to have to get a return very similar to what they gave up to the Nationals. And the teams that are calling right now, we talk about this, the Yankees being one of them, they don't have the prospects to even incite a conversation for a Juan Soto trade. There's only a handful of teams that actually have that number of top prospects that would interest San Diego. And the problem too is if you're San Diego and you have guys who are $300 million contract guys in your lineup, there's only so much room you have for prospects anyway. And even in the rotation. So we know Blake Snell's probably going to leave. He's a free agent. So you're going to have to get a pitcher, but you still have Yu Darvish. You still have Joe Musgrove as well in the rotation. You have your veteran players are set in certain areas that you're not going to be able to trade all of them or going to be able to move on from as many of them. So where does the prospects really kick in that you're going to say, well, top prospect's going to come in and he's going to take over a certain position in the field or in the lineup or in the rotation? That's not really the case for San Diego. They're kind of stuck in a way to where they can do that. So it doesn't make sense for them to trade Soto right now and then say, okay, we're going to get 4 top prospects, but only one of them are really going to get called up probably in 2024, maybe more so 2025, and the others are going to sit in minor leagues for a few more years. It doesn't make sense to do that. So keeping Soto, trying to get an extension for Soto should be the top priority for San Diego. And if you cannot get that extension by the deadline, or at least by the end of the offseason, and you know that he's going to be leaving here very soon, then you make that trade to say, hey, you know what, it didn't work out. We're not able to come to an agreement. Now we're going to go at least get something in the ballpark of what we want. It won't be the same amount, but you'll get something close. At least it's going to make you happy of making that trade.
And JG, they may not get the overall haul that they want mid-season, but isn't there a better chance they get one piece that they may not have gotten before? When you have a team that's like, man, like we're there, we need Soto, we want Soto. So they might not get, the 6 pieces they want, but they might get the one piece that wouldn't have been on the table before if a team really wants to push it over the top to bring him in mid-season.
Absolutely, and that's the thing too. Like when you have conversations with trades, it's leverage is always the conversation. Who has leverage in the deal? And San Diego does have some leverage because they don't have to trade him right now. They don't have to make that trade. They can say, hey, look, if we're not getting what we want, we'll keep him. But there's no incentive for teams to give in to the demands of the Padres in the trade conversation because they're like, well, hey, more likely you're not re-signing him either. So you can keep him for another year, and then he'll be a free agent, and we have a chance to get him without having to trade any prospects. So the leverage conversation is so fickle between the Padres and teams that are making phone calls, because they know the asking price is way too high right now. And so at some point, in which teams know, if I trade for Soto, I have to sign him. You're going to have to. And that's going to be part of a conversation that Boras, I'm sure, is pushing. If that happens, if a trade does, he's going to be there and say, look, we're only accepting a trade if we know we're getting an extension attached to it. And more times than not, Scott Boras doesn't want that. That's the other side. Boras wants his players to go into the open market. So there's no reason for teams to really sit there and say, yeah, I'm going to give in give into the trade, and then we're going to push for an extension. But Boras is going to basically say, no. 400. You can throw around $400 million to Soto in the extension conversation of trade. Boras will still say no, because he knows suitors will line up to make that $400 million turn into 425, 450, 460, and that's where the conversation ends for that. So that's why it's so hard for teams to really deal with Scott Boras' clients, because he wants them to go in the open market, which of course all agents do. That's not a Boras thing. When you open in the open market, the conversations of more money kicks in for you. So it's going to be very difficult for teams to make that conversation. But again, Padres have the leverage to keep them. But at the same time, teams in the other opposite side of the spectrum have the leverage to say, keep them. We'll see him in free agency.
Another gem that Boras dropped yesterday was in regards to Pete Alonso. He said, when it comes to the polar bear, we're not in contract hibernation. JG, what do you see as far, because let's be honest, we know what the Mets are doing. We know what the Mets plans are for the next couple of seasons. I can't imagine that aligns with someone in their prime like Pete Alonso, who has an opportunity not only to make great money, but have a great impact on a team that is in contention to win something, which is what the Mets are not. So in a day and age where it's about winning and being a star and all that, it's hard to look at someone like Alonso and be like, yeah, he wants to stay in New York. He wants to be a part of that process. Maybe he does. I don't know. But what do you see as far as Alonso and his future with the Mets in regards to a contract extension?
The conversation can be, look, you endure these next 2 years, and by year 3 of this rebuild, this rebuild that we're in, you'll be back in a playoff team. If they turn around and say, hey, we're going to offer you a 10-year contract and make you one of the highest paid first basemen, 2 of those years are going to be rebuild. At least 2 of those years are going to be in a rebuild. So that means the next 8 years, and the selling point they're going to have the next 8 years, you'll be a part of a contender again. So it's the incentive of, say, you're one of the highest paid first basemen. We'll make you that. Endure losing for 2 years, and then we'll turn around and be a contender again. That is tough selling, because at this stage of players, you don't want to lose. You don't want to be part of a rebuild. It's so hard because, again, in his prime right now, this is the time that you want to win. You see in guys that want to win. You see Freddie Freeman for the Braves, who for the Braves win a World Series and go to the Dodgers, and he continues to push for World Series opportunities. You see Matt Olson doing the same thing in Atlanta. He's pushing for World Series opportunities. Do you really want to waste 2 years of your prime to be part of the rebuild? That's the selling point that the Mets are going to make to Pete Alonso is endure 2 years. We will make you the highest paid first baseman, but endure 2 years of losing. Be part of the foundation of what we're trying to build. We're building this team around you. And then by the time we hit 2025, you'll start seeing the results from there. So is that going to work for Pete? I don't know. And I think the frustration of what we kind of saw this year at the trade deadline, the frustration from players of being blindsided by a rebuild may have hurt the Mets in that aspect of having that conversation, because that's what pissed off a lot of the guys. Is all of a sudden they got trades started happening. The Mets came out and said, yeah, hey, we're rebuilding in 2025, 2026. But players looking at it and go, you told us we're winning a World Series in the next 3 years. So I think some trust issues probably can be kicking in, and I'm not speaking for Pete, but I feel like that's something that's going to be kind of a stickler in this conversation of an extension. If they truly can sell him on that and say, and sell him that, hey, 2025 is our year, maybe they can keep him on. But I kind of feel like a trade is not unlikely in this scenario. Just I think that because of the conversation that happened at the deadline this past season.
And JG, what are your thoughts on Ron Washington becoming the manager of the Angels?
In regards to Ron Washington, I don't think anybody deserves it more. He deserves another chance to be a manager. I mean, again, I said with you guys, how his tenure in Texas ended with a lot of the personal issues that kicked in, the drugs that he got himself caught up around. It kind of cost him the trust of the franchise, and then they were able to move on from him in that aspect. He has absolutely cleaned himself up. A New Orleans native, so I have to love Ron Washington, and everything. But I can't be more happy for somebody that gets a second chance to be a manager. As much as it hurts my Braves, and I wish that he could have retired as an Atlanta Brave coach. It's a great day for Ron Washington to be a manager in baseball again. What surprises me is that's the team that he's going to be a manager of. I was anticipating the Houston Astros being that team for him, where he steps in and helps to be a contender. Is the Angels the right job? We'll find that out, because there's so much that has to be done with that team. There has to be so much that has to be done with that roster. You don't know who you have around. You don't know Shohei. More likely Shohei's not coming back. More likely Trout's not going to be there much longer either. If he's going to want to trade out of the franchise, what are you building yourself in with only a 2-year deal too? You're only having a 2-year contract, so there's not a lot of time for the rebuild that they're in right now to give him the opportunity to turn the franchise around. I don't expect Ron Washington to be a Bruce Bochy-like manager that's going to fix this team immediately. As much as I love Wash, I don't think that he has that with this team. The Rangers had many good pieces for Bochy to turn around. I don't think that's the case for the Angels, for Washington to do so. So love that he has the opportunity to be a manager again. I don't think anybody deserves a second chance more than Ron Washington. I just don't know if that's the right team for him to get back to being a manager and continuing the legacy that he had in Texas with the 2 World Series trips that he got, that he led them with. I think that's going to be a struggle for these next 2 years, and how much are they going to give him another contract to say, hey, yeah, we still believe in you. We'll give you another 2 to 3 years at that point. Or even Wash wants to manage that long, and it's, in a 5-year span, being 71 years old. That's the other conversation: is how long is he going to want to be a manager at that point? And is the franchise going to give him the opportunity to succeed? That's my question more so than anything else.
JG, I said that the Yankees were going to quietly keep Brian Cashman, and they did. And I said that once they quietly kept Brian Cashman, he was eventually going to come out and announce they were going to keep Aaron Boone, and he would feed us some sort of BS. I didn't call the BS, but what the BS were a lot of guys supported Aaron Boone and wanted him to stay. He didn't name any of those guys, but apparently a lot of guys wanted Aaron Boone to stay. So Cashman is still with the Yankees. Boone is still with the Yankees. Soto's not being traded. So, it's not looking great in Yankee land this morning. But then we get a glimmer of hope. We get a glimmer of hope because we see the odds come out for where Shohei Ohtani is going. And the Yankees are one of the 6 teams. And listen, all I'm saying is we got a chance, right? If we're mentioning the 6 options that he has, and I get it, the Dodgers are the overwhelming favorite. They're nowhere close to anybody else on this list. But then in the next group of teams, it's the Giants, the Mariners, the Mets, and the Yankees. All I'm saying is you got a chance, right? You got a chance.
You gotta love the media just to want, the media wants that. They want Shohei in New York. They want it. I mean, my goodness, we've seen what superstars in New York, when they signed. Again, Aaron Judge re-signed with the Yankees last year, and it was just the talk. It was the talk of ESPN and Fox Sports for a month. It was almost. I'm going to say this: it was almost as much coverage of Judge re-signing with the Yankees than we had with LeBron in the NBA. I mean, that's why I got to say almost, because obviously ESPN is contractually obligated to speak about LeBron. But sorry, Freddie. I know that's going to be blasphemous. I'll get what, but the media wants that to happen. Again, that's why you put the Dodgers at the top of the list, because again, it's the LA market. That's why you add the Yankees into the conversation, because it's the New York market. It's the way to go for the media to just say we want this. But Shohei's not going to New York. I hate to burst the dreams of Yankee fans. I don't think that's the case. I don't see how that's going to work, especially if they're already wanting to have Cody Bellinger having conversations with Bellinger to be a piece in that lineup. How are you going to afford Bellinger, which you're going to have to pay a lot of money to get Cody Bellinger, and then turn around and try to pay the highest paid contract for in baseball with Shohei Ohtani?
George would have done it, JG. George would have done it.
Yes, but George is not in the building. George is not in the building. Hal and Hank are not going to do that.
No, they're not.
There's no Hal and Hank won't do it. George, if George was alive and still the owner of this team, 100% agree, and it's a different conversation I'm saying right now. But with Hal and Hank, not happening. It's just a conversation to have, and it's a conversation by the media to push, because they want that to be because that might, again, it's Shohei in New York, Shohei in the Bronx, Shohei with the pinstripes. It would be the biggest thing in the world, not just in sports, but in the world, for Shohei to be that ball player in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium. And my goodness, the comparisons would be astronomical of Shohei Ohtani and Babe Ruth more than ever before. So that's why the media is going to push the Yankee odds to be able to be what they are for the conversation of Shohei signing with them. I just don't think it's going to happen. Like I said to you guys, he's going to be a West Coast player, because it's better for Japan, for him to be closer to Japan. The aspect is a little bit better for him in that realm. And I know, and I've said this with you guys on the shows this week. Teams that have Japanese ties will have a little bit more of a priority. Yes, Yankees do have Japanese ties with ball players. I just think that he wants to stay on the West Coast, and that's why teams like the Mariners, like the Giants. I know the Dodgers are in there. I don't know if the Dodgers are gonna get it enough to really say yes, you need to come to LA. And even the Rangers just because they were World Series champions, and the winning is a priority for Shohei, and the direction they were with Bruce Bochy matters a lot. So the media is wrong for this. The media is wrong for Yankees being in this conversation. I'll just
How
put it
much
that
of a role do you think Ichiro plays in this, as far as the Mariners being in contention? Because when Ichiro came to the Mariners really embraced the Japanese media. They embraced the Japanese culture. They did a lot of things, making Ichiro the center point of a team that had some success when he was there, but they also didn't have a ton of success. There were seasons where they didn't win much, but Ichiro was still the focus and the center point of that team. And then he left, obviously, for a little bit, but they welcomed him back. He has a front office job. So they're showing that they take care of their players, even when their careers are over. Is that part of this? Is this a situation where if Seattle decides they're going to make a run at him, is Ichiro a big part of that play?
Absolutely. And as we said, Ichiro is Shohei's idol. He's a hero to Shohei for as a ball player, and as a ball player in Japan, and for what Ichiro has done here in Major League Baseball. That is a big factor that the Mariners do have at their disposal to have a conversation and entice Shohei to come to Seattle. And with Ichiro being actually part of the franchise, as you said, as a front office position, it's going to emphasize even more, because now they can say Ichiro is here. Whatever you need, whatever you want, and whatever kind of comfortability you need to have with us, you have your idol here. So that's a big advantage that the Mariners do have compared to other teams, because again, that is his hero. That is Shohei, and he's made it very clear. We saw when Ichiro and Shohei, at the ball fields, I think it was this season, and the pictures and just the conversations of ultimate respect Shohei had of Ichiro. It's such a prestigious thing to have if you're for the Mariners. So it's a big factor. It's that they have him in the front office in the position to be able to have conversations with Shohei. Will that be the big deciding factor? I don't know that one, but that does give them an advantage in the conversations compared to other teams.
JG, before we get you out of here, we got a big game on Thursday Night Football tonight. It is the Panthers. It is the Bears. Justin Fields doubtful to play tonight, so it looks like the backup will be going again. Who do you like tonight?
I know the NFL, when they were hoping the Bears were going to be better. Justin Fields was hyped up to be this dark horse MVP candidate. And then you have the hype of the number one pick, Bryce Young. But my goodness, as y'all were saying before I came on, Thursday night footballs are absolutely awful and snooze fest. And I know, Key was talking about, y'all about Al Michaels. Kind of just, this has been such a horrible season for him to have to call these games. I can imagine. Would anybody be surprised if we had a tie?
I didn't even think of that.
Would that just be the cherry on top of this game? It's a 10-10 game, and it's, both teams have 3 turnovers, and I could see that being the case. I'm trying to remember who I picked in this game. I think I picked the Panthers. I think the Panthers are a little bit better right now, and I know the Bears have been competitive. They had a pretty good game against, minus the 5 turnovers against my Saints. They actually played competitive, and they were battling with the Saints in that game. But the 5 turnovers you cannot have in the NFL, let alone, and you can't have that in high school football and try to win a ball game. So I kind of feel like Carolina with Bryce Young is still getting their feet moving. They're still kind of getting the fill out, and I think Bryce is going to have a good game. And again, if Justin was going to play, might be a little different feeling to it. I know Justin hasn't had it, when he has played, he hasn't blown the world on fire like everybody thought he was going to, but he's obviously going to be better than Tyler Badgett is at the moment forward. So, but I think with Bryce Young still getting going and the potential he has shown at times, I think it's going to be a little bit more of a better performance than what we see with the Bears. So I'll go with the Carolina Panthers to win the game that nobody in the NFL, and this is probably the one game that nobody actually watches the NFL. We always talk about NFL gets fans watching, even Thursday night games. The NFL gets people to watch. I think this is the one game that people will just say, no, not interested.
JG, we appreciate you as always. We'll see you next week. All right.
Appreciate you, JG.
As always, guys, appreciate it.
All right, Mo, let's take a quick break. When we come back from our break, we're going to discuss some NBA things that we have happening around the league, and we're going to do that right on the other side. Don't go anywhere. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show here on Sports Empire Network.
Hey, y'all, I'm Key.
And I'm Jory, and tune in to Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens every Saturday at 5 p.m. over on Sports Empire Network.
And don't forget, also watch us on Roku TV at Northeast Streaming Productions. So tune in.
Welcome back. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Thank you for making us part of your morning routine. Mo, not great news coming out of Denver. Jamal Murray has a hamstring issue. He is being shut down basically for the rest of November. They're hoping he can come back sometime early in December, but they're looking at probably about a month, maybe a little more without Murray. We saw the Nuggets beat the Warriors last night in a game that, let's be honest, even if you're a Warriors fan, it was probably closer than it should have been because the Nuggets obviously are not at 100%. What do you think this is going to do? I know it's only 4 or 5 weeks, but what kind of impact do you think this is going to have on the Nuggets? Obviously, they're still going to be a championship contender. Obviously, they're still going to make the playoffs, nothing crazy like that. But could this potentially shift seeding a little bit in the West? Because they're probably going to lose a couple of games or a handful of games in here that they probably wouldn't have normally lost. And you know that during the course of an NBA season, seeds could be decided by a handful of games. So is this a situation where it could potentially cost them a 1 and have them end up being a 2 or a 3? Or do you think that they're that far ahead of the West competition that losing a few games that they shouldn't have lost isn't going to really impact anything.
I think worst case scenario, they're going to be a second seed. I think they are that much better than most teams in the West. I think what's going to happen is, look, when you take away Jamal Murray, clearly their best player, but when he and Joker run the two-man game, that's a special thing that no team has yet to stop. But with that roster, they do have weapons. I think Michael Porter Jr. will step up. I think he'll be asked to step up. He'll answer the bell. You've got Gordon. Gordon can give you 16 to 18 a game. Don't forget about KCP, Christian Braun, and more importantly, I think Joker, who while he is their leading scorer, I don't think he hunts shots, but I think you'll see a more aggressive Nikola Jokic because I think that he's going to try and put them on his back to carry them for the foreseeable future. And look, because I think they are that much better than anybody in the West, if they should descend a little bit, what's that look like? To me, like I said, I think that's a 2 seed at worst. The Nuggets will find a way, to me, to win the close games that they should win. And even some of the so-called better teams, I still think the Nuggets are they're a tough team to beat. Look, who's their nearest competition when you look at the West? Sacramento right now is without De'Aaron Fox. They're not nearly the same team. Golden State is going through, I think, a sea change, right? They're on the Steph and Clay and Draymond timeline, but you can tell they're not quite the same team. And I don't know what's going on with Andrew Wiggins. It's a confidence thing. Maybe it's things going off the court, but his minutes went from 31 minutes a game, and that's what he's averaged the last 3 seasons, to 25 minutes a game. His production has dropped. He's shooting less than 18% from 3. His confidence seems to be out the window. So there's a struggle there in Golden State. And look, I know normally you say Golden State will just they'll weather the storm, find a way. The Nuggets are so much better than everybody in the West, and I think that the Warriors have come back to the pack. So I don't think Denver's going to be – you're going to miss a Jamal Murray, but big picture, do I think someone else is going to become the number one seed in the West? I don't. Who's their nearest competition? Phoenix is not 100%. The Lakers just lost Anthony Davis for a few games, and you knew that was going to happen anyway at some point. And at some point, they'll lose LeBron for a few games. So who's their nearest competition other than teams that people point at that could be their competition on paper? But realistically, there's a big gap between Denver and the second best team in the West.
Yeah, like you said, anyone that realistically, when healthy, could be a challenge to Denver, they're not healthy right now. The Lakers aren't healthy right now. The Suns are not healthy right now. Golden State has, we don't think Golden State is the second best team in the Western Conference because we think that's going to fall somewhere around the Suns or maybe the Lakers. And they're there right now with Dallas, but we don't think either of them are going to be second when it all comes down. We're thinking they'll be more 4, 5, 6, somewhere in that range. So the teams that we thought could push Denver, mostly being Phoenix, if we're being honest, they're going to lose. They're losing right now. They're taking on losses that they maybe shouldn't be taking on because they're missing big chunks of their team as well. Right. So I agree with you in that Denver is not only going to weather the storm for the next 4 or 5 weeks. The built-in cushion they had just because of how much better they are, that is what's going to keep them, I think, in the 1 seed. Agreed. Unless something happens where Murray misses, 2 months or something crazy like that.
Sure.
Now it's a different conversation. But if it's only 3 to 5 weeks, like it looks like it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I am getting a little concerned, though. I know it's only been a day. We just talked about this yesterday. But when you go out and you lay a dud against the Houston Rockets on the road, and you are now 0-5 on the road, what is Mo? I mean, it's only been 24 hours since we had this conversation, but the Lakers are 3-5. I don't know what kind of videos they're sending to the league this morning. I don't know if LeBron's team is going to start sending videos of Ham's play calls and start, is trying to get things changed with him. I don't know what's going to happen, but you're 3-5. You're 0-5 on the road. You're already dealing with some AD stuff. I know we're only 8 games in, but there comes a point, Mo, where you have to look at the next 4 or 5 games for the Lakers, and that they can't go 1-4 or 1-5 in that stretch. They can't allow this thing to start getting off the rails completely. They got to start at least playing some 500 basketball while they figure their stuff out, while they're getting AD healthy, while they're figuring out, why are we playing such tight games with teams that we should be better against? And I get it. Like they're at the beginning of the season, they're moving through that process. You don't know who you are until 25 or 30 games into the season, regardless. But what you don't want to do if you're the Lakers, you don't want to go into a 3-7 run right now over your next 10. And then when you do start figuring things out, you're 8 games under 500. That's not where you want to be. You want to be around the 500 mark, if not a little better, when you kind of get the train moving in the right direction. So, Mo, just talk about last night. What did you see from the team last night?
Well, so here's one of the Lakers' weaknesses coming into the season. Athletic teams that play with pace, that's a problem for them. It's a problem for them. So they lost a game to the Magic. The Magic should have beaten them twice. The Magic just blew the first game. But when I watched the game last night, Houston just played with pace, and they just ran them. And the Lakers if they can't control pace, that means usually LeBron walking the ball up and milking out the 24-second clock. If they can't control pace, that's a struggle for them. Plus, they're not very good in transition defense, one of the worst in the NBA. My disappointment is this. They were really good as a unit in the second half of the season, right? After the trade, they were very good. And they brought all those guys back. The only big change would be Gabe Vincent, right? You added him to be part of your rotation. What I don't understand is because you brought back, for the most part, that core, where's the continuity? I don't understand the struggles. You can tell me that, yes, AD is out, but you were playing against a Rockets team that has no all-stars, no superstars, a young team. 3 of their starters are 21 and younger. That's 3 of their starters. And you got blown out the building by that team. That can't happen. Like you said, even without Anthony Davis, that's a game you're supposed to win. And the Rockets own them. And I just look at that team, and there's a lack of continuity, and they're not consistent, right? Especially defensively. So with the new additions, when you look at Gabe Vincent and Christian Wood, on paper, that sounds very good. But how you incorporate them into the rotation is the problem. I don't think – I was one of those people, and I think you were too, that when people were going around saying the Lakers won, they won the offseason, they had the best offseason, I was saying we kept our own guys, which is a good thing, but we kept our own guys. And we were able to add a rotation player in Gabe Vincent who could potentially impact the game. But we didn't sign a superstar. We didn't bring in a third star. This team, to me, it looks like a 46-47 win team. That's what I see, and that's at best. That doesn't mean that they still can't make it back to the conference finals, because I look at the rest of the field, even at full strength, what Phoenix is going to rely on, right, is their ability to put the ball in the basket with Booker, KD, and Bradley Beal. They're not going to lock you down defensively. It's not going to happen. And when you look at a team like Portland's gone. When you look at Dallas can score, but they don't defend as well. The Western Conference, really, to me, when you look at it, Chris, top to bottom, normally it's top heavy, but I don't think it's that top heavy. I think there's Denver, and then there's a couple of teams that we potentially think could compete with them. Even if De'Aaron Fox is back and Sacramento's whole, they can't beat Denver in a series. That's not even a good series. De'Aaron Fox will put up big numbers, but they'll lose in 5. I just don't think I think the East is actually stronger at the top than the West is this year.
No, it is, because when you look at the West, you're almost saying to yourself, who is going to win the opportunity to potentially get swept by Denver? That's almost what you're looking at, right? Because on paper, you're going to say, well, Phoenix has the best shot to take out Denver, but who even knows if Phoenix is going to be healthy come the end of the season, because they're struggling, and they've always struggled with health issues. And they brought in players. I mean, Bradley Beal doesn't really have a long health history, but he's hurt. He goes to Phoenix and he's hurt. KD has a health history. We've seen Booker the past couple of seasons have health things pop up here and there. So you don't even know if Phoenix is going to be full strength at the end of the season. And that's something that needs to be put in the conversation. And even if they are, you don't look at Phoenix and say, well, the Lakers and the Mavericks and the Warriors have no chance. You just say, oh, Phoenix will probably be favored in that series, but I'm not going to be shocked if the Lakers or the Warriors or the Mavericks knock off Phoenix. It might be an upset, but it's not shocking. So you're almost looking at, well, of that group, who gets to go play Denver? And then that group, who can win 2 games? Because as of right now, you look at it and you're like, I don't think anyone's going to beat Denver. I don't know if anyone's going to win 2 games against Denver. Maybe Phoenix can. And that's kind of where you are in the West. Whereas you look at the East and you're like, man, a Boston-Milwaukee series, that would be great. Can the Heat go on another run? Philly's playing great basketball right now.
They are.
Can one of the young teams put it together during the season and then spark a run going into the playoffs? That's not the conversation. If you took Denver out of the West, you could have a similar conversation in the West.
Well, everybody's in the picture then, right?
But Denver's just lurking over everyone. So you're looking at it like, man, one of them has to go play Denver. And there's just no confidence that any of them can actually beat Denver.
No, not at all. And in the East, it's more like a murder's row. Like you said, Philly and Boston in a conference final, or Milwaukee in Boston in a conference final. Or like there are 3 teams at the top right now, but you look at a team like Cleveland who's struggling now, but once they're whole, that's a team that could potentially make a run. I don't think the Knicks are completely done. Look, I'll say it again. If the Knicks can kind of do what Philly did, you can get better by default if you move Julius Randle. Now, I never mind like what you get back. I know you want to say a big name, but if you don't get a big name back, if you just get back the privilege of cap space, you're going to be better.
And that's another thing in the East. You take those 2 teams that you just mentioned, Cleveland and the Knicks, they could be a trade deadline piece away from entering the conversation with those other 3 teams, depending on what they do and what moves they make, because they're not far behind those other teams as far as competitiveness and being able to win a series against them. So again, that's something you're missing in the West, because you look at the Lakers, you look at the Mavs, you look at the Warriors. What are they going to do to get better midseason? Nothing really. They don't really have the opportunity to bring something over where you're going to be like, oh, well, they can definitely take out Phoenix now, and they can definitely have a competitive series against Denver. And Phoenix, they're tapped out. They're all in. What they have is what they have.
Right.
And they'll probably give the best shot to Denver, but who knows if that matchup even happens.
Right, because they might lose earlier, right, to Golden State.
Correct. So who knows if we even get to that matchup, because they're not a lock to run through the other teams in the West. So
the West is so flawed, and it's so, I don't want to use the term weak, but there is a huge gap between the Nuggets and the rest of the West. And unless, like you said, unless there's a major trade that I don't foresee coming, I don't think the Nuggets have anything to worry about other than health.
Right, and staying focused. And let's be honest, there is no one more focused than their superstar, who just wants to come in, win basketball games, and go home. That's all he cares about.
That's it. Joker's like, Embiid had that monster game the other night. I think it was like 48 points, which was a great performance. And in the same night, Joker goes 35, 13, and 14.
It's nothing.
Right. That's insane.
All right, well, let's take our last break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up our day with some NFL stuff. We're going to have our Thursday night football picks. We're going to do all of that right on the other side of our break. Don't go anywhere. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show here on Sports Empire Network.
Hey, guys, it's Pavel the Cat.
And Evan Rev Reynolds.
And we are Two Guys in Hockey Talk. We are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to talk all things hockey. What are we talking about, Evan?
We talk KHL, AHL, ECHL, every HL hockey league you can think about, prospects, juniors, even the professional women's hockey league.
Yeah, we love it. And we have a website, Two Guys in Hockey Talk. So give us a follow. We got articles on all things related to hockey, and we're writing all throughout the season. So make sure you tune in. We're also on X or Twitter. You can find me at hockey_2, and
you can follow me at RevanEv. Or you can also go to 2guysandhockeytalk.com to follow everything.
We love hearing from you guys, so make sure you tune in, comment, like, give us a follow on our Facebook and YouTube page. We love hearing from you guys, and it's a blast talking all things hockey. Right, Evan?
Hey, man, it is. So, as we say every show, in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome back. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Mo, I have never seen women's hockey, but I am intrigued.
You know what? Every time he brings that up, I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't be able to take my eyes off it because I got to assume they're probably more physical and rougher than the guys are.
100%. And that's why I'm intrigued.
Right. I am signing up for that brawl.
Shout out to my guy, Tyreek Hill, using the bye week to get married. He just got married yesterday, I believe. So big congrats to Tyreek Hill and his new bride. But Mo, let's talk a little bit about NFL defensive players. So yesterday, Von Miller and Cam Jordan, I believe it was Von Miller's show that Cam Jordan was a guest on, and they took issue with the NFL as far as the uptick in the recent roughing the passer calls. They showed video of a handful of different calls that have happened in recent weeks and basically crying foul that defensive players can't do their jobs because not only are they getting these things called against them on the field, on the back end of it, the NFL is turning around and they're penalizing them financially. Tens of thousands of dollars every time there is one of these flags thrown for a roughing the passer or an unnecessary roughness call. And Mo, I see both sides of it, especially when it comes to the financial side of it. It's one thing to throw a flag on the field. You're costing your team 15 yards. It's an automatic first down. You know, a lot of times it extends plays. A lot of times it results in points being scored on the play because you're giving that jolt to the offensive side. So not only are these calls hurting teams on the field, but then you turn around and now you're taking away $40, $50, $60, $70,000 a chunk from these players. And if you're a Cam Jordan or a Von Miller, sure. Is it hurting the bottom line that much? No. But $60,000, Mo, is nothing to sneeze at. And it's not just happening to tens of millionaires. It's happening to guys who are making a couple $1 million a year. And when you take $60,000 out of their pocket for something that when you watch it 3 times on film, you're like, why? What was the flag for? And then they're getting $60,000 taken on the backside. I get it. I understand where they're coming from. And I don't see it as whining. I don't think this is the same conversation as a cornerback saying, I can't even touch the receiver. We get it. That's where the league is right now. It is an offensive-driven league. It is a quarterback-driven league. They don't want you touching the wide receiver. They want wide receivers catching balls, make the tackle after they catch it. So I don't think it's the same conversation because if you get 3 straight pass interference calls in a row, yeah, your ass is on the bench. You're not losing $60,000 on the backside because of it. You're losing a little bit of playing time that game, and you're like, oh, the refs were horrible. They probably shouldn't have called 2 of those. But you're not losing money. So, Mo, for me, there needs to be more of a balance. Either if you're going to protect the quarterback as much as you are, and it's such a subjective world, did he land on him with his body weight? Did he drive himself through the quarterback? If you're going to be that subjective to the point where the calls are going to go up, you have to help on the back end and bring the fines down. I'm not saying don't fine them, but maybe not fine them as much because clearly the fines are not helping. The calls are going up. So at this point, are you just trying to take money from the players, Mo? Because if the calls are going up and fining them is not helping, you know what's going to happen next. They're going to increase the fines. That's the natural progression for this move. And if you ask me, that is totally the wrong direction.
And like you said, the defensive players are put in a tough situation. It's a bang-bang league. These guys are going 100 miles an hour, and at the last second before impact, sometimes before they hit somebody, you want them to let up, and they're almost airborne sometimes. It is difficult. It is difficult, and it's easy for somebody to say adjust. I think they have adjust, but it is a hard league to play in when you're a defensive player, a defensive end or a defensive tackle or a linebacker, and you're hunting a quarterback or a wide receiver comes over the middle, and now they have this thing where you have a small target zone, right? Like you can only hit them in certain areas and it not be a problem. I'm with you. If the calls are going to happen, the nature of the game is physical. You want to penalize them, I get that, but don't raise the penalties. Don't raise the price of penalties. Come up with something else. But what they're doing right now, I totally agree with Miller. That's insane that they would charge somebody or fine somebody $60,000 because I get tripped by an offensive lineman and I roll into your quarterback, and that's on me. And if you watch that and you know I can't control that, but I get fined, which I get it. We're constantly trying to. I don't think you can protect quarterbacks more than they already have. Like, you know, if you want to go back, you listen to those old NFL films and you listen to Steve Sable, and they were suplexing quarterbacks back then. Like they were doing finishing moves in quarterbacks back then. You know, you when you was a quarterback, that's when you had to worry. Now, if you're a lineman and you're turning the corner like a Michael Parsons, and the lineman grabs your left shoulder and you pull away and you stumble and you fall into the quarterback, that's going to be a penalty. I think they have to find a better balance, and it's easier said than done. But what they're doing right now is not working.
And Mo, one of my favorite conversations on Sunday is as he was going to the ground, he lifted his body weight up as he was falling to the ground. Like, how do you know that? Because I'm watching the same replay the announcers are watching, and they're like, no, that shouldn't have been a penalty. He didn't drive him into the ground. He landed on him. Like, he's a 300-pound man landing on him. It's gonna hurt regardless, Mo.
And they act like a 300-pound man could do something out of the Matrix and freeze. You know what I mean? In mid fall, where there'll be no impact. That's not realistic. And look, we've done enough for the offense. Let's cut the defenders a little break on those penalties and those fines. That's just insane. I'm totally with Von Miller. It's out of control right now.
J.C. Jackson will not be traveling to Germany so he can mentally get himself right. He is having issues as far as committing, apparently, in New England. And I did not know this, Mo. I was reading an article. Apparently, after he was traded from the Chargers to the Patriots this season, one of the coaches for the Chargers brought together that defensive back unit to apologize to them for two things. One, J.C. Jackson ever being there in the first place. And two, for giving J.C. Jackson playing time over other people in that room when they showed they wanted it more than him. Mo, that does not happen in the NFL. And now he goes back to the Patriots where he has success in his career. And now we find out he's missing curfew at the hotel. He's arriving late to team things he needs to be at, to the point where they're saying, you need to not travel to Germany with us this week. You need to figure your stuff out, and you're going to stay home and hopefully get your head right. This is an $80 million player, Mo. I don't know if he has more going on in his life besides this. I don't know if he has some mental health things going on, if he has some personal things in his life going on. So I'm not going to come in here and kill him. But I am going to say, come on now. This is clearly a trend and it's clearly a pattern. And if it's not something extenuating, if it's not an extenuating circumstance in your life, and this is just you not being focused, then you need to get your damn act together, because it looks like you're on your way out of the league because you can't do things like be where you need to be. And if it is an extenuating circumstance, Mo, I hope he can fix that part of his life to get back to playing the game that he supposedly loves.
Agreed. And look, we don't want to make. I'm not going to comment on someone's mental health. It's a serious thing. I'll take it this way. If, like you said, he is having extenuating circumstances that he needs to get or seek help, I wish the young man all the best. Get yourself right before you come back to play football. Your life comes before the game of football. So I just wish the best for the young man and hope he can get himself together.
All right, Mo, it's that time. We got to make our official picks for Thursday Night Football. We got the backup quarterback with the Bears tonight. We have the number 1 pick in the NFL with the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to roll Carolina tonight. I like the he hasn't made a lot of progression, but he is making baby steps. I like Thielen. I don't know. I mean, the backup quarterback for the Bears, he has a really cool sleeve of tattoos on his one arm. You don't see that a lot in the NFL with white quarterbacks. So I thought that was kind of, it's true. Think about it.
A little different.
How many white quarterbacks do you see with a sleeve on their arm? You don't see me. My wife and I were talking about this. We're like, name another one. And I literally couldn't. I couldn't name another white quarterback with a sleeve. So
He's a little different.
He is a little different. I mean, there's a couple of linemen that have it going on. But quarterbacks, they're not usually tatted up. So I was like, I like this guy. He's got a little moxie to him. But I don't think the Bears are going to win tonight. So I'm going to go Panthers.
I'm going to go Panthers as well. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I plan on watching the entire game. I cannot tell a lie. Yeah, we'll see. But I know what my plans are.
All right, Mo, close us out, sir.
And thanks for everybody for checking us out live. Thanks for everybody that will check us out later. Check out all the great content that we have out there on Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire.
Make sure you're back here same time, same place tomorrow where we break down all of the action heading into Week 10 of the NFL season. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show, and we will see you right here, same time, same place tomorrow morning.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, is any